The average toddler today spends more than 2 hours a day on touchscreens before they're even able to form full sentences. These aren't just iPad kids. They're the first generation in history whose primary relationship is going to be an algorithm. And what comes next is so much weirder than you think. Now, I know that all of you guys have seen it. When a kid is crying out in Tesco's or at the park or whatever, and what does the parent do first and foremost? They give them an iPad to stop them from crying, or a mobile phone. Now, this has become the new age pacifier. It captures their attention. It leads them or drags them into an algorithm that completely captivates their imagination. Back when we were kids, I'm 28. So back when we were kids, let's say you'd watch TV. It was a passive experience. You would watch it, you would soak in information, but you weren't interacting with it per se. The difference between then and now is that these kids are now literally being socialized by these algorithms. They're interacting with it. They're getting used to the swiping and the tapping, and it's literally frying their dopamine systems before they're able to even make sentences. Why is this such a big deal? It's a big deal because these algorithms are literally training their patterns. It's training their patterns, it's training their reward systems, and it's literally training their emotional regulation. It used to be the fact that when you'd be socialized, it would be by your friends, by your family, by your siblings, by your school, whatever immediate environment that you have that you interact with more so on a day-to-day basis, especially until the age of critical development, which is around the age of 6. But nowadays, before you even reach that critical stage, according to psychological literature, you're already zoned in to the algorithm. You're already zoned in to YouTube Kids. You're already zoned into whatever games that you're playing and how it's interacting with you. You're tapping, tapping, tapping. And next thing you know, the way you think, the way you come up with sentences, the way you understand how to maneuver in the world, even as a child, is coming from an algorithm. Now, what does this have to do with AI? It has everything to do with AI because these kids are being socialized into an algorithmic relationship, into a technological dependency. Now, the reason that this is such a big deal is because by the time this kid is 10 or 12 years old, it's going to be way more natural to them to have a relationship with an AI companion than with a stranger or another human being they can actually develop a relationship with. Now, AI is already a big problem for us adults. We're already, going to AI to understand how to think about this topic, to do research for us. We're already outsourcing our thinking. If you want a breakdown of exactly how that's happening, you can go and watch my first video, which I'll add in the little icon in the top. But you guys need to understand that if this is going to be a problem for us as adults who didn't grow up with it, now imagine the kids who are growing up quite literally being socialized by algorithms, being pacified by iPads and by phones. Next thing when they're older, they're not going to trust you as their parent or as their older sibling or as their caregiver to socialize them. They're not going to trust the way that you understand the world because you're coming from two completely different paradigms. They're going to trust what they're seeing on the screen because that's what they've understood, even subconsciously, as where they get their comfort from, since it's been given to them from childhood as a pacifier. Now, what happens after that is that it's going to completely change the nature of social interactions. You're going to be having human-computer interactions before you get human-to-human interactions. And we already see that. We already have parasocial relationships with one another. We message each other on social media, we FaceTime each other. We're not seeing each other in person as much as we used to, let's say 15 years ago. Now take that to the nth degree. People are now not even going to value human relationships purely because they've been completely socialized to have computer relationships, human-computer relationships. When me and you were children, assuming you're born in like the early noughties/90s, you'd go outside and you'd play with your friends. You'd go to school and you'd interact with your friends. And after school, you'd ask your mum, hey, can I go to my friend's house? You want to go to sleepovers? These kinds of things. What's going to happen over the next 10 to 15 years is that children and adolescents are going to prefer to be holed up in their bedrooms talking to AI about their emotional problems, about what happened at school today, about what they want to do with their lives, about how to think about certain issues. And the whole reason is, like I said before, they've been conditioned their entire lives to look at these human-computer interactions as the foundation of who they are as a person. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't actually think there's anything anybody can do, apart from maybe individual parents, like take your iPad away from the kid or take your iPhone away from the kid. And I'm not saying this as like somebody who knows how to be the best parent or whatever, but I'm saying this as somebody who's studied computer science and AI and data science in particular, as well as somebody who's also studied child developmental psychology. If you look at what's called Bronfenbrenner's socialization theory, you can see the rungs of socialization that produces the person that you are. It starts with the immediate environment, it expands to the environment that creates that immediate environment. For example, your religious affiliation, it's the government, it's your local laws, things like that. And then beyond that, is going to be just the age that we're in society. For example, looking at modernism as an idea, or traditionalism. These are things that become downstream and that filter all the way down to your personal relationships. And over time, that's what develops you as a person. Now, what's being completely flipped is that socialization is no longer coming from cultural ideals that are passed on from generation to generation or person to person. The people who control the guardrails for these AIs are able to add in or to imply their own worldviews. They're able to imply their own understanding of things, whether it's religious or moral or otherwise. And those are going to be the main socialization factors for children. You see that people actually learn their behaviors from their immediate environment. And when you see that these AI conversational bots are able to replicate human behavior, able to replicate human speech, they're able to replicate the understanding of emotions and all these other human interactions that are generally seen as human to human, then you begin to understand how by these iPad kids being socialized as early as they are into getting emotional regulation from screens and interacting with these screens, you're going to see over the next 20 years that the primary driving socialization factor will be AI. If you think what I'm talking about is purely hypothetical or just speculating about the future, we already have so many lawsuits from parents who have teenagers who have either unalived themselves because of their communications with these AI chatbots, or because they've developed emotional dependencies on these AI chatbots. So this isn't something that's just happening in the future. This is something that teenagers are already currently dealing with. And my point is, if teenagers are struggling with this because they were socialized through social media and now they're getting these parasocial relationships with AI models, just imagine what it's going to be like for the kind of brain that's been programmed to tap and scroll and interact with these screens from before they're able to speak. The results have been and will continue to be catastrophic. Now, with regards to these children developing attachments with screens and with these AI chatbots and these characters on these different platforms, you only need to look at Bowlby and Ainsworth, or John Bowlby and Mary Ainsworth's theory of attachment. We already see how even from childhood, these theories of attachments develop in children at a very young age, and as Ainsworth showed, it develops at their future relationships, including their marriages, their friendships, even their workplace relationships. So if we know from, more than 50, 60 years ago, how primary relationships in childhood lead to the way people socialize in the future, and even how babies understand and develop their mental models of the world, I don't think we're ready for what comes next. The first thing you can do is take the iPad away, take the iPhone away, or at the very least, teach these children how to socialize and why they need to socialize. And of course, it's pretty difficult to do with a toddler in particular, but especially when they're able to form sentences and come up with ideas, you're going to have to teach them how to interact with these systems, because these systems aren't going away. AI is not going away at all anytime soon. We're going to have to teach them exactly why they need to socialize, the reason they socialize, and also to contextualize AI and these human-computer interactions in the proper format. Because what's happening right now is, because of how they're being raised as children, they're going to immediately go to it for comfort. They're going to immediately go to it for understanding how to think, and especially with the voice setting, because as you guys all know, people are able to speak to AIs and it can be very conversational, sounds very human-like. So just imagine what that would do to the brain of a 7 or 8-year-old when it switches on the voice chat on ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, and next thing that becomes its best friend. You can't just reverse that in their brain. That becomes a continuation of that pacifier. And if we know anything about the things that socialize us as children, they do tend to show up later in life in how we relate to one another, in how our relationships are formed, in how they're upkept, in our religious beliefs, in our social beliefs, in our cultural norms. And all of this is changing in a way that we cannot yet fully predict. I haven't actually seen anybody talk about this, which is why I felt like I needed to talk about this, especially for those people who are interested in child developmental psychology and how society or sociological norms play themselves out over decades and generations. So this one is for you guys. But anyways, I want to know what you guys think about this. Do you think we're cooked, or is there nothing that's really here to write home about? My name is Machiavellison. Thank you for tuning in. Like, share, and subscribe, and tune in for my next video, dropping every single week.